Hello, this is Mace Hara for the Medical Sales Guru podcast and the Medical Sales channel on YouTube. Thanks for being here. Want to talk to you about closing more sales by doing something that you probably don't like doing, because most people don't like doing it. What I mean by most people is most people in this industry, salespeople. And that is asking for help. You know, salespeople can be very, very independent. A lot of them have a lone wolf type personality. They like to do things on their own. They want to get all the glory. Like, I scored this big sale and nobody helped me to do it. It was all me and no one else. So let me ask you this. How do heroes usually become heroes? Well, in the most simplest of terms, they become heroes by accomplishing the mission's goal. Whatever the mission is, they achieve it by accomplishing the goal. So that's how you become the hero. You don't become the hero by doing it by yourself. You become the hero when you accomplish the mission's goal. Now, here's something I want you to realize about heroes. If you've ever studied heroes, whoever you think is a hero, heroes take advantage of every resource available. Usually, they have to. Usually they're in a desperate or dire situation. It may be life or death on the line. It could be making the sale or not making the sale on the line. So they'll take advantage of every available resource. Now, salespeople, for some reason, think that the only resource they have is themselves, or maybe their product kit or whatever is handed to them by their company. But that's not true. You have resources beyond yourself, such as other salespeople, people in your accounts. I'm going to talk about this in a moment, but this is really, really important. You know, the point is, it is silly to try and do it all yourself. And in the worst of situations, you'll find that those events which have a good outcome, there are usually multiple resources, in other words, multiple people involved. Let's take United 232, for instance. You may have heard of United 232. This is the story about Captain Al Haynes. And I had the pleasure of having dinner with Captain Al Haynes probably about 3 or 4 years after this event took place. This was the crash of United 232 in Sioux City. You may remember it. And it was July 19th, 1989. They were flying a DC-10 from Denver to Chicago when the unthinkable happened. They're cruising at 37,000 feet. And the airplane, one of the engines in the airplane, I believe it was the middle engine, the number 2 engine, suffered a catastrophic failure, which sent 70 pieces of shrapnel throughout the tail, and it severed almost all of the hydraulic lines. And that's really what happened. They had a total hydraulic failure in the airplane, something which is mathematically almost impossible the way the redundant systems are set up. But it happened. There's 296 people on board, and none of the controls are working. The yoke isn't working. There's no rudder control. There's no brakes. So what does Captain Al Haynes do? And think about this. This is a pilot, and pilots oftentimes, I know because being a pilot and hanging around a lot of pilots oftentimes have a macho personality. Like, they could do it all themselves. They could handle all of the situations. If something goes wrong, they're equipped to handle it. So what did Captain Al Haynes do? Well, he realized that this was a pretty bad situation when you don't have any of your hydraulics that controls or that allows you to control the control surfaces of the airplane. So what he did was he found out, keep in mind there's 2 other people in the cockpit. There's a co-pilot and there's a flight engineer. I'm sorry, their names are escaping me at this moment. But there's 3 people up there. So they're communicating amongst each other. What can they try? They're looking in the emergency checklist, the emergency manuals. But Captain Al Haynes found out that there was a DC-10 instructor named Captain Dennis Finch, who was in the back part of the airplane. He was a passenger. And he said, well, let's bring him up here. The more minds, the more resources we have here in the cockpit, the better off we'll be. Now, what these 4 people in the cockpit figured out how to do was they figured out how to control the airplane by using differential thrust. Captain Haynes would give a command and he'd say, give me some more of the right engine, of the number 3 engine, or give me a little bit more, a little bit less of the 1 engine. And they were able to maneuver the airplane. Now, what else? What else happened here? Knowing that there was an emergency in place and they were heading to Sioux City, it was very fortunate that on this day, the Iowa Air National Guard, the 185th Iowa Air National Guard, was doing maneuvers on the airfield. 285 trained guardsmen. They said, we're keeping everybody here. You guys are going to need to go to work. They looked at the 2 hospitals, which, by the way, some of you watching from, if you're from Iowa, may call on these hospitals. 2 of the hospitals in Iowa, which were Marion Health Center and St. Luke's. It was right around shift change. So what did they ask? They asked for the current shifts to stay, and the new shifts came on, so both hospitals had double shifts. They had double the personnel. Take control of the resources. So here's what happened up in the cockpit. You have 4 pilots who are maneuvering the airplane to land at Sioux City by using differential thrust. So they line up on one of the runways, and they're coming in for the landing. This is it. What happens is this. The right wing tip touches down first in the middle of the runway, and this breaks off the right wing. The airplane goes up on its nose, and the cockpit breaks off. It separates from the rest of the airframe, and the whole airplane, the rest of the airplane goes over on its back, and it slides down the runway until it comes to a stop in flames and smoke. Not a great scenario. But because of these resources that were put into play, remember, there's 296 people on the airplane. 112 died. Very sad. But 184 survived. And these people who survived, they survived because Captain Haynes at the time, who was considered a hero, he'll tell you he was just doing his job. He was trying to fly the airplane. But he brought into play as many resources as he could. In Sioux City at the airport, they brought into play all the resources that they could. At the hospitals in Sioux City, they took advantage of all the resources that they could. All the emergency medical services were summoned to the airport. Everybody they could get a hold of, even from surrounding cities. Use all of your available resources. What are your resources? Let's talk about that, because this is really what this is about. You have resources besides yourself. Well, one resource you have is your sales manager. Now, when I say this, some of you are going, my sales manager. All my sales manager worries about is getting his numbers, so he or she puts pressure on me to get my numbers. Well, here's the way I see the sales manager. I don't see the sales manager as a sales manager. I see the sales manager as a resource manager. Someone that you could go to when you need help getting resources made available to you. This is powerful. Who are some of the other resources you have available? Well, what about design engineers or product managers in your company? They have the lowdown on the specifics of the product design, how it's used, the science behind it. Do you ever think about bringing one of these people in, maybe to talk to one of your customers? You might have to fly them in. You might have to invest some money. Maybe the company will pay to fly them in. But the bottom line is they're there to help you close business if you ask them. Now, here's a big one. Other salespeople that work for your company. Now, this is where a lot of salespeople, they put up a lot of resistance. They say, hey, no, I'm not bringing in anybody else. No one's as good as me. No one can do what I do, and I want to do it all on my own. Big mistake. Different people have different talents. You may be really great at some parts of the sale and not so great at others. I'll give you an example back from my selling days. There was a sales rep who I worked with. His name was Jim. And Jim, from a technical perspective, he was an absolute wizard, had like a mechanical engineering background. I mean, he could describe things in terms of force vectors and, the amount of Newton meters that are being applied or whatever it is. I don't even remember this stuff. I did take physics, but I don't remember this stuff. But he knew the engineering, and he could give a phenomenal sales presentation. But he wasn't good at asking for the business. In fact, he wasn't comfortable asking for the business. So he asked me if I'd go along on a sales call with him for two reasons. Number one, he knew that I had the clinical background to be able to give him support, from an anatomical perspective, a clinical and pathology perspective. But also, I suggested, if I could ask for the business, I know you're not comfortable, you don't like to be pushy, let me do that. We were able to close the sale together, whereas he would have struggled to do it on his own. And Jim helped me in other situations as well, many, many times when I needed that expertise, that ability to come in and really deliver the engineering points of the sale. Use your other sales associates. Something else your other sales associates can do, they can share success stories with their customers. What's going on in their territories. It could be a doctor who's had great results using the product you're trying to sell, or a therapist or a nurse who's been able to create patient comfort and better patient outcomes using the product. When they hear it from one of their colleagues, or they hear about another one of their colleagues from someone else, it just adds a lot of credibility to the sale. Here's another way that you could use resources. And I learned to do this pretty early in my career. From time to time, you're going to have to deliver bad news, and it usually comes from your company. And I'll give you an example. A case is when your company implements a price increase. And I used to hate this. And you work in medical device, you know that your accounts go freaking crazy when you have a price increase. In fact, when they get the new price list and they see it's gone up, 5, 7%, whatever it is, usually you get a call saying, hey, this isn't going to fly. You got to do something about this. So I never wanted to have this conversation with them. It's not that I was incapable of having the conversation, but this was an unpleasant conversation that usually left bad, negative feelings. Now, my distributor that I worked for, Mike was awesome at these conversations. He loved to have them, and he didn't care. He didn't waver. He wasn't trying to make friends of these people. He spoke to them respectfully and factually. He was able to explain why the price increase was necessary. And if there was any negotiations that could be done or he was willing to do, he was there to do it. I didn't have to do it. I did not have to say no to my valuable customers. And a lot of times, Mike would leave the meeting after that, and I literally had somebody say to me, that guy's a jerk. He's an idiot. He's an a-hole. And I would just say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please don't hold me accountable for what he said. He was delivering the company line. I'm going to continue to work hard for you. I'm going to do what I do. But I'm sorry about that. And I can't tell you how well that worked time after time. What else? Executives from your company. They're a great resource. I'm talking about if you have the home office, if you're a big company, or if you're a small company, you should be able to get these people in front of your customers fairly easily. The CEO or the president of the company, maybe the VP of sales, a chief scientific officer who might be a doctor or a physician or somebody with a PhD in a related science. You bring this person in, it gives so much credibility, and it also makes the customer feel special because what you're saying is, you're important enough for me to bring in the big guns from the company. I want them to talk to you if you can make the time. This really communicates a great message. Other customers who have credibility. Sometimes one of your customers, as long as this customer is respected by the prospect you are trying to sell to, if another customer is respected and trusted, they could go to bat for you sometimes if you will ask them to. And provides a lot of credibility. Now, here's the thing. Don't forget to give credit where it's due. Whoever helps you to close the sale, make sure that this person gets credit or the team gets credit because you want them to help you again. And that really says something about you. It says you're a professional and that you're focused on the outcome. You're not focused on just getting all the glory. That's not what it's about. At the end of the day, in sales, my philosophy on this is get the sale, get the commission check. Don't worry about the credit. Credit is overrated. Credit, is it's really a manifestation of ego where, we like to pat ourselves on the back and say, I did this all myself. It's not worth it. The point is you don't have to go it alone. There are other people out there in your organization, in your accounts, in the community, in your circle who can help you. And remember, when you're having difficulty closing the sale or you can't make headway, it's often because you're not using all the resources who could help you along. And if you don't try to take advantage of that, that's just poor thinking. It's okay to ask for help. I'm sure you feel good when people ask you for help. It's flattering. Maybe you don't want to make the time because you're either value your time very highly, or maybe you're a little selfish, or you don't think you're ever going to ask someone else to reciprocate and give you help back. But asking for help and helping others is the right thing to do. It's okay to ask for help. And of course, don't forget to return the favor when you're asked. Now, I want to offer you a little bit of help. I want to offer you a free course, an on-demand course that I can make available to you. It is called How to Create and Sell Irresistible Value in Medical Sales. Now, many of you have already taken this course. I've had it up for a while. And so many of you have contacted me and said, after you implemented the strategies that I provide in the course, this 4-video course, you told me that your sales took a turn for the better. Some of you significantly. So I want to make this course available for you. So if you would like to have access to this course, all you have to do is send a text. Just get out your little texting device there, and I want you to send a text. I want you to text the word delivery. I'll spell it for you, DELIVERY. Text the word delivery to the number 44222. That's delivery to the number 44222. You could also click on the link at the Medical Sales Guru page, and it will take you to an opt-in page where you can have access to the course. I highly advise you to do it. Just follow the directions. It'll ask you to put in your email, and the next thing you know, within 5 or 10 minutes, you will be watching video 1, and it can make a huge difference in your outcomes. I hope you will take me up on my offer to help. Thank you for spending some time with me, whether you're listening on iTunes or at the Medical Sales Guru page, or you're watching this video on the YouTube channel, or maybe on my site, medicalsalestraining.com. I thank you for being here. And don't forget that as you move forward in your medical sales career, yeah, you're doing it to put a roof over your head and to take care of your family and be able to eat food. Eating food is good. But don't forget the other reason. This is a big reason. This is a compelling reason. You do it for the patient. At the end of the day, the patient always comes first. I'm glad you do what you do, and I hope you're as proud to be a part of the medical sales professionals in the world as I am. For the Medical Sales Guru podcast and the Medical Sales channel on YouTube, I'm Mace Haroff. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye for now.